My name is John Reeves. I'm the Healthcare Evangelist and CTO for Boomi. I'm going to talk to you today about value-based care and iPaaS and how your organization can benefit from the benefits as we move forward. And I'm also going to touch upon the healthcare and life sciences at large. So as long as everybody can see us, and I'll just move ahead. Some housekeeping items. I'm going to give you a quick introduction to Boomi, some conversation around the trends and opportunities that we're seeing from our healthcare customers. And this is across all segments, like I said, life sciences, research, payer, those plans, fully integrated, IDNs, health delivery organizations. It's quite a sampling of customers and opportunities that we have to share with you. I'm going to have some use cases as well, and then we'll end with some questions and hopefully give you the answers you want. Afterwards, like Amir said, we're going to have a roundtable. Hope to see you in some of those discussions. We're going to have a couple as well, small questions after some of these slides. Quick true or false, just to get the juices flowing and see where the puck's going to go for you. So something about the first question, or just real quick, true or false, where we're executing on a hybrid cloud strategy. If you don't mind giving a quick answer to that, this is just to give me some ideas on where you're going, and then we'll be able to move on. I'm going to weave in these answers as we go. If you want to go ahead and make that selection, just real quick, and then we'll move on. And that's encouraging. So majority of you are looking at a hybrid cloud strategy, and that's going to be important. We're talking about the integration platform as a service technology sector here with Boomi. Currently, we have over 17,000 customers, and it's important to you to know that we're the leader in this Magic Quadrant space for Gartner. The most recent is out soon, and we compete with such ESB and SOA integration platforms like IBM, Informatica, TIBCO, those types of things. We also, because we present a platform approach, can really address any level of complexity throughout your organization, whether you're a small organization or a large enterprise. We have over 800 partners, so we're very partner-driven from that perspective, and we have most, if not all, of our education is online. You're welcome to get certified, to learn about Boomi, to start free trials, to actually purchase and start using Boomi without interaction with salespeople as well. So it's really interesting the way we're making it consumer-driven, right? We're an open, vendor-neutral platform, and like I said, we're a platform. So another quick question coming up right now. Okay, we have enough technical resources to execute on our modernization strategy. If you could quick let me know what you're thinking on that. Okay. So usually the reason why I put that one out there and so much of a softball, right, is because in most cases, organizations don't have enough resources, right? So when we think about Boomi and we think about how we go to market and how we're used in the business space, this is about low code, fast time to value, not needing developer resources. I just have a couple marketing slides here. This is probably the last one I'm going to do, but as you can see, we're leading in these technical quadrants, and that's because we've been in it for a while. So Boomi's been around for over 21 years. We started as an on-premise EDI company focusing on business integration. About 7 years into our journey, the creators of the platform understood that the cloud was quickly going to redefine the marketplace in the integration space. And so they developed the differentiation, which we've been helping customers benefit from ever since. And that is where we have an orchestration, a SaaS layer in the cloud, and we have a runtime, which is independent of cloud architecture that runs on a Linux or Windows platform. So having said all that, we're going to be talking about a platform, right? So from an Atom Sphere orchestration layer, we present not just a technology product suite that just does point-to-point integration in a more modern way, but we provide organizations with the tools needed for business adjacencies, right? So we're thinking about your data readiness and your outcomes for your lines of business. We're thinking about, what are the tools that you need to not just get the project done, but to project those efficiencies and those savings throughout the enterprise. Boomi is about an integrated experience when we're thinking about strategically aligned with the business outcomes, right? We don't want the IT domain to be a technical barrier. What we're understanding and what we're learning all the time now from our customers is that we need to be able to enable our organizations and customers and prospects with the ability to address their needs at market speed. So gone are the days of where you make an IT decision or you go to your steering committee and be thinking about how is it that you're going to achieve a particular project outcome, right? Because once that gets achieved, then you have to go back and do the same thing again, right? And so by the time you get to execute on a project, you're so many months behind. Well, with Boomi, because we perform in the platform and we provide adjacencies to those business needs, you're able to roll very quickly into the next need for that given project. So for instance, we have in the platform the ability to master data, to take on a whole host of integrations with our branded connectors. We also have a strong platform for EDI and business-to-business integration, right? So when you're thinking about supply chain and logistics or manufacturing execution systems, the SAP, some of the larger systems, we're thinking about manufacturing workflows, right? Even in the smallest regard, managing human capital efforts for onboarding, right? Thinking about all these things often is the case that you're sold particular integration products per those vendors or manufacturers, ideas. And it's never with the intention that they're putting the customer first. They're putting their organization or their vendor first. Boomi, we flip that on its head, right? We're putting the customer first. We're putting the organization first. When we provide an integrated experience for our customers, we really do want you to benefit from the outcomes and the benefits of having a strategic partner. So one of the differentiators, to be clear, is that we really focus on making you the center, if you will, of the business equation. And so some of the ways that has come to fruition over the near term, especially in life sciences, is where we're seeing a move to decentralized clinical trials, digital therapeutics, all manner of digitization of business outcomes is happening. And the requisite ingredients are, cloud, agility, you have your business inputs, but not necessarily the developer resources, right? You have the aspirations for the market benefit and the future growth potential, but you don't necessarily have all the benefits of having the investment, right at the beginning. And because of that, what happens is you're stuck with only having a part of the solution that one needs, right? When they move into these large business transformation efforts. With Boomi, because of the way we present the particulars of our platform and it's subscriber-based, you're able to take those components from the platform as you move through your life cycle through the efforts of your modernization effort. We have a strong partner ecosystem, like I said, a technology alliance partner ecosystem as well. So when we're talking about AI and machine learning, we can make that pretty simple from a connector perspective by harnessing, our partners in that space so that we can make almost click to configure efforts easy, right, in those aforementioned difficult tasks to execute on. Right. So when we think about manufacturing, smart manufacturing, supply chains, virtual everything, right? Logistics, partnerships are becoming more and more virtual. It's all about getting to the business outcome sooner. And when we think about a framework, we need to be thinking about security, whether that's from a commercial hospital or consumer HIPAA perspective to GXP compliance or Annex 11 in Europe. we want to be thinking about all of those types of domains that require integration, whether that's in people skills, intellectual property, data governance, data silo integration, right? Independent of hyperscaler involved. So often is the case when you're looking at research collaboratives that data is outside your administrative domain. And this is very much the same when we're closing the loop in commercial application of novel therapies, right? So I can share you some stories about the recent customers and opportunities we've had because of the COVID situation, the pandemic in general, and how some of these large organizations have used our iPads to help them get over the hurdle of not only the untoward business obstacles that this event has caused all of us, but in turn actually caused some nice effects of them having a competitive advantage, right? Now that they've moved to an iPaaS platform such as Boomi, they're able to shed some of the technical debt and some of the previously hard to recognize benefits because it was very point-to-point or developer-heavy in the integration space area, right? So what we're talking about is maximizing enterprise data pipelines. We're talking about being able to choose a broker of choice. You know, when we're thinking about point-to-point integration and how we can modernize those efforts, we need to be thinking about a totality and the vision as a framework, right? So on the clinical development or in the manufacturing side, Boomi probably has a very good, insightful story to share on how we're helping organizations benefit, right? And take advantage of the complexities that the businesses provide by making it, you know, a seamless effort, a transition, which is in partnership, right? When it comes to patient care, one of the things I want to really underscore is that we're seeing multi-cloud adoption in every space. That analytics seems to be taken for granted. Of course, people want to understand the insights and see the relationships among the data silos that they may or may not already be aware of. But how can I do that in the same platform? How can we democratize the data, right? What is it about pervasive data awareness that I'm not getting? How is it that everything has to be driven by subject matter expertise within my organization, which can't scale effectively, right? So can I somehow democratize certain aspects without introducing certain levels of risk, right? So the consumerization of healthcare has been driving the adoption of the cloud as well and the move to iPaaS. The importance of interacting with business outcome, we see that every day with our interactions with our care providers, with the folks who manage the revenue cycle work streams, the folks who give us our bills, the other workflows, if we're in a clinical trial, if we're in other aspects of the healthcare domain, there is a ready, available back and forth that we would like to participate in, right? We're taught this through social media, and it's something that we learn to expect in all aspects of our life. So being able to reposition your organization and the data services that you provide in a way, you know, whether that you use the term microservices or web services, or, you know, when it gets down to it, to bringing it down to an actionable item that can be consumed in a lightweight fashion, right? To be absorbed in the end user platform, you know, or architecture of choice, whether it's a smartphone with an app on it or a tablet with a more full featured experience, or a rich client, or, you know, a thin zero footprint client. The fact is, so much more is having to be done without walls, without true consideration for the architecture behind it, because it's experientially driven, right? The customer expects a particular outcome, and so it's incumbent upon the organization to deliver that. Now, in doing so, we have to be thinking about the cost and complexity behind that. How can I do that at a cost that is generally flat? Can I predict over the next 3 to 5 years what these certain aspects are going to be, right? So Boomi is all about that. I just want to make that clear, that there's an economics aspect of Boomi that's missing from like Informatica, IBM, MuleSoft, right? a lot of those organizations, when the customers, make a flight to Boomi, they usually have the same refrain. It's too costly, it's too complex, it's untenable. It's all the legacy enterprise thinking, right? Well, those days are gone, right? And so Boomi's here to really change the dynamic and to help you understand where you can now take that operational debt and put that into innovation and new features, right? And to some extent, it's matching the movement to value-based care in general, right? So architecture in IT, where application integration was really the focus, even that has undergone a transformation, right? The same where transactional-based medicine has moved to outcomes-based and value-based care. All things in this ecosystem are changing at speeds that really exceed our budget cycles, right? Our costs, our capacities to learn new skills, right? So our cost curves, our learning curves, all of these things are being outpaced by the demand of the competitive markets. And this is because you can't fight population trends. You can't fight demographics. We've learned that just by watching our own healthcare system in the United States implode, at least in words. Many of us have been affected in many different ways, but it really is something we're living longer, which is a good thing. But we're having to do so with maybe being polychronic or having to take multiple medications or having to do creative things with our own budget so that we can afford to live longer, right? A lot of these truths are hard to bear, but all these things are really impacting on how care is delivered today. And so whether it's acknowledging one thing or another, the thing that we can all agree on is that there's lower reimbursements going to the providers in the care continuum. And at some levels, depending on your zip code, right, your prices are going up depending on the plan you have with your employer, or if you're paying for it yourself. It's no laughing matter. We need to be moving to a position of value-based and outcomes-based care. On the clinical side, we're having to move from, like I said, the transactional nature of the business from a volume-based business. It's moving to quality outcomes, right? On the patient side, we're hoping to move people from being episodic and catastrophic as that being their first interaction with their primary care physician. We're hoping it's not. Oftentimes it is. Many folks are lucky. They don't have to go to an ED or have much care provided to them for a majority of their life. But when you do go, you want to make sure it's there. You want to make sure it's affordable. And then when you are through the care plan or when you're in a long-term care situation, that you're understanding of what you need to be aware and well. What we're seeing in greater scope about the challenges of healthcare, and again, why they're needing to control costs, why they're needing to think about iPads, why they're needing to strategically address, differently the way they consume IT in this space, is that we're seeing a strong movement in M&A activity. And along with mergers and acquisitions, there's a lot of divestitures that has to happen. So when you're thinking about the legacy footprint of your IT space, let's just take one component of the platform, integration. The way we address integration is really with branded connectors or with technology connectors. We like to say, well, some of us like to say, it's like making a sandwich, right? You have one piece of bread, that's one side. You have the other piece of bread, that's the other side. And in the middle is all the transformative items you may do to that data. You may have call outs to workflows, to other SaaS platforms for insights, for analytics. You might have some AI or ML, inputs. You may have some transformation rules, right, that require call outs through SMS texting or through email or through other types of things, right? All of these business transformations or items that have to happen between the source and the target, we take care of those things with wizards, without development efforts in many cases, with drop-down menus, right, with examples from our rich communities of Boomi users, right, with features within the platform that give suggestions based on what other customers have done similarly before you. So we really provide a platform for ease of use and reduction of time so that you can get to the business outcome quicker. And these types of things are very well needed in areas where there's a lot of mergers and acquisitions. And don't forget the divestiture. So you always have to retire something. But oftentimes you don't have to retire it right away, or you can't retire it right away. So Boomi's used, as you will, as an umbrella. And we're able to harness existing systems and so that we can create a regulated and prescribed process of retirement of some of the older systems, or maybe you want to do some application modernization and reuse existing services. You can use Boomi again to connect to the legacy systems, source systems, and then present a new and native web-facing experience, at the other end, right? So all of these things help provide predictability and cost, help manage the care to a prescribed, dollar amount, right? Over time, we're seeing capitated models and providers taking on more risk. Same with research collaboratives. There's a fixed amount of money for this research endeavor. There's fixed amount of dollars for sharing in benefits down the road. So you want to make sure that your technical debt does not get out of control, right? We want to be thinking about new things that we haven't thought about. So having a platform for innovation to take on the next iteration of bring your own device or bring your own experience. Again, we're having to, in the current space with legacy technology, always play catch up. But while you have an iPaaS or the hybrid integration platform like Boomi, you're always going to be playing partnership with the lines of business, which is a very different feature set, right? And you're not going to have to worry about, is my platform secure from a regulatory compliance perspective? You're not going to have to worry about, are my prices going to go up? Because you're going to have an understood cost, benefit in the platform, knowing ahead of time which features cost what, and over what level of time that you'll be forecasting. All of these things are about a total integrated health experience where you, as the provider, can be thinking about the business at hand and keeping the experience at the center without having to worry about, how all of the potential items surrounding the care of the patient, for instance, or the research collaborative effort are going to skyrocket or get out of control. When we think about the triple aim, for instance, and we think about the provider as an integrator, we need to be thinking about all of those things that happen around in the continuum of care that impact technology decisions, that impact the total cost of ownership of a project, that impact the total experience of the provider, right, or of the employee, or of the patient or the consumer, right? Think about the personas. In the traditional episodic care of a patient, we're going to be thinking about levels of acuity. We need to be thinking about the coordination of care, where many of the expenses get out of control when we're doing handoffs. We're seeing a lot of movement to our iPaaS for organizations that have to manage the cost in transitions of care to long-term care centers, right? There are lots of organizations that manage that handoff for insurance companies, right? Be in the middle. You have this hospital system, you have this network of post-acute care experiences. Who's going to manage that experience in the middle? That's becoming a very interesting space to examine. You always have to manage the complexity of the case mix. So, and drug adherence. We're global, so we have a lot of experiences to share around the world, quite frankly. And I'm always taken by the fact that there's an organization based out of the UK where when they sell pharmaceuticals to the hospital, they don't just sell the drugs to the hospital, they sell a certain SLA, as it were, or a level of adherence that has to be taken into account with the drugs being prescribed to the patients, right? So inherent in the sale or the administration of the drug in the long-term care setting, there has to be, in partnership, the care navigator or the compliance when it comes to drug adherence. Why is that? Well, in certain markets, they've discovered that it's not enough to prescribe a therapy. It's important that that therapy is adhered to, right? And that there's outcomes, and that there are better outcomes associated with those that follow through on a care plan, right? So we're seeing, the use of our iPaaS platform to bring together real unique technical integrations with very important bespoke systems of record, and we bring to it, maybe another component of our platform for workflow or a UI, a custom UI experience. Maybe you're going to revamp or integrate with an existing CRM or some other type rich user experience. Boomi has the components to slipstream into those layers that you already have, or to create those layers if you don't already have them. And you may want to, create a microservice or an API service or some type of patient lookup service, right, based on existing systems of record. All these things are possible with Boomi without having to pivot and look for other components or other products, rather. You just pull from the components in the platform, right? So when we're thinking about, again, the continuum of care, we think about long-term care or recovery. Think about the activity monitors, the patient monitoring devices, all of those aspects in the home. Maybe it's a home health setting. I'll talk about an example about a home health setting. But the point being that as you move out of the hospital, there's less understanding of a constrained, predictable environment, right? So you need a platform that enables you, without breaking the bank, to connect to other systems, right, or to other unknowns. And Boomi's exactly that platform to do that. When we think about connecting at the edge, when we think about an open IoT landscape, Boomi is actually used as an IoT architecture platform of choice. And again, we've got many hundreds of software integrators, even the large global SIs. We actually have a few that have created IoT architectures out of Boomi and integrated with clinical workflows. But again, really, when we think about, the final outcome, right, it's about wellness, and it's about the ability to create an integrated experience about the cloud of health IT, right? And so, again, kind of hearkening back to that triple aim, it was really, really great advice. We really are not moving away from that. We want to make the experience enjoyable for not only the clinicians, but for the patients, for the families now that are by either by proxy or in the team aspect, right? Making decisions together, really thinking about the final outcomes so that we live aware and well going forward. That we're enabling the organization first for all the insights that they can derive from their silos, from their different systems, from their different source systems. It doesn't matter what the EMR is, right? We're going to integrate with the clinical artifact, with the clinical data through a standards, whether it's HL7 version 2 messaging, or using our community-based FHIR connector for really looking at those resources from those individual aspects that are needed for the immediate outcome, as well as from an archiving position. How can we take advantage of merging different FHIR resources, right, to create a composite or an experience in a lightweight fashion, and all of this in a low cost, low code, quick time to value platform, right? So Boomi's all about predictability and consistency and cost avoidance. I'm going to think quickly about my time. I think we're doing okay. I'm going to also take a quick look at some of the questions. All right, we've got some good questions. And now go through some customer use cases. I really just have a few logos here. Most vendors have logos. It's pretty well understood. But when we were talking a little bit earlier about, or when I was articulating to you about the COVID situation which was upon us, Moderna comes to mind, needing to adapt in a very novel and agile way to assess how they can modernize their systems, whether it's a custom drug design software or integrating, with their large ERP systems, to managing their people resources, right, with a very well understood SaaS platforms, right? We have connectors that are branded, that are created in partnership with these SaaS vendors out there. So, whether it's your Workday, ServiceNow, cloud service provider being Google, Microsoft, or Amazon, there's all kinds of connectors out of the box which enable you quick outcomes to your integration. And then because that integration is taken care of so quickly, we often find the statistics being in the area of 60 to 70% faster than our competitors. And then when you take into account that we have the business adjacencies taken care of, if you will, from a technology perspective, that we have the technology needed to build out that integration further than what you expected in the platform, that in turn provides a greater return on investment. There's a Forrester report that was recently released, and we build composite customers out of that, and they do analysis on that for us. And it seems a bit high, but it's pretty true with Boomi that you get in the hundreds of percentage ROI in the first year, and sometimes less than a matter of months with Boomi. And that's because we take the non-differentiated data services out of the equation right away with Boomi. So when you use our platform, you're not having to worry about setting up an IDE, articulating who are going to be the resources that are going to be prime on this, right? You're either going to do it yourself with your system analyst, you're either going to create a COE, or you're going to partner with a technology provider that you most trust, and we're going to get the job done very quickly in a matter of a fraction of the time that your either legacy components are doing today, or that our downstream competitors are in the Magic Quadrant space can do for you. So it's really an amazing story of speed and agility. And so, you see that when you see organizations like Moderna and all the others. There's really too much to list. When we follow up, I could share with you some of the other names, but you can just imagine in the post-acute care setting, in the long-term care setting, when you're needing to provide a frictionless IT experience, SC Health in Toronto is one that comes about where they have many thousands of visiting nurses, and they had to adapt to COVID screening protocols, and they had to, introduce some level of robocalling to help with pre-screening for virtual visits, right? So taking their very typical on-premise kind of facility-focused systems of record, and then making them cloud native, making them addressable in a new way, right? Boomi's able to do that. I often say we're able to put lipstick on any pig in the farmyard, right? And I say that tongue in cheek because we can make anything better, right? You don't have to retire your old systems of record if they're completely providing value today. They're fully depreciated, or it's not an operational burden to keep them going. But often is the case that organizations have hundreds of applications that need to be managed, that they have different administrative domains, that entity relationships need to be curated. So we need to be thinking about these things and how you're going to do it in a cost-effective way. Or from a state agency perspective, thinking about how are you going to move away from those legacy systems of care or those legacy integration platforms to large IDNs, multi-state IDNs. So I think one of the things I want to do now is, I think I'm low on time. I want to focus on some of these questions. I just want to kind of wrap up before we look at some of these questions, just to let you know that Boomi is not just an integration platform. We're not just going to put an API on it, although you can, right? We can do that. Anybody can do that, to be quite frank with you. That's nothing to hold your hat on. I wish all the best to organizations like MuleSoft, but the future is really providing an integrated, collaborative technology experience that can manage and partner with the key performance indicators that are driving the competitive market for your organization today, right? And you just don't see that with the legacy ESB and SOA architectures. So when you're thinking about doing not only those projects, but you need to be thinking about how those projects are going to project through the enterprise, right? Think about these solutions we have with our partners, whether it's near patient testing devices, integrating with nurse call systems for smart mattress, the activity monitors, those types of things, track and trace, and the regulated, heavily regulated environments, to emerging tech, right? We want to be thinking about where the puck is going, and are you making the right investments when you think about iPaaS? And that's really what the Boomi story is all about. And so I look forward to, working through some of these challenges with you and helping to introduce that. So, Amir, I'm going to go through some of these questions because I know we're probably running low on time, but I'm going to
read them through. Read them for you if you'd like.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
yeah, what do you have there?
Maybe if you want to stop sharing your screen and then we can go through these together. One of them I don't want to lose. So Sylvia Jessen had a really quick question. Is the Boomi platform agnostic?
Oh, so yeah, let me assume what's being asked here. So on the face of it, agnostic, yes. We present the integration, the orchestration layer in the cloud. So you log into the platform. It's a single instance multi-tenant platform. All of our customers share the same software revision, so everybody's on the latest and greatest. It's never been a problem, and I mean that sincerely to anybody. If you think about our whole healthcare and life sciences organization list, and these include FDA, HIPAA, Annex 11. The fact that our platform gets updated every month, except the month of December, is pretty innovative. And that's because we think about an agile development process. It's not everything that's upgraded at one time. Our customers can actually flag their business solutions to be regression tested with our engineering, so that if there's any opportunity that there may be some problem, we'll partner with the customer and the organization to make sure, from a regression test perspective, that nothing is interrupted with our monthly updates. From an agnostic perspective, the runtime, which is really the secret sauce, where we really invented this decoupling of the orchestration layer from the runtime, that's run on a Linux or Windows platform. It could be containerized in your container platform of choice, independent of hyperscaler. So if you want to run that in your data center in a hybrid, community-based architecture, that's completely fine. You could have the Atom, many multiples atoms, hundreds in different locations across the country, across the world, all feeding into the same orchestration layer and the same tenant. You can also manage subtenants. So if you're an organization that has subordinates or affiliates that you want to share integrations or business transformation efforts with as a starter, we can help you through that. We also have a rich OEM partner strategy. So actually people use Boomi for their own modernization efforts, for their software modernization efforts that they intend to sell with their own customer base. So yes, we are very much agnostic from that perspective, just FYI.
Gotcha. John Jeffries asks, does a platform as a service require any devices on-prem for the company to maintain and manage lifecycle management?
Okay, so really the only thing that has to be managed per se is the Atom, the integration component, and that can be actually managed for our customers as well. Boomi has a managed service offering, and that can be managed by the customer or by a third party, whether it's ourselves or any one of our partners. The important thing there is it's so lightweight. These run times are very small. We bond them together to provide vertical and horizontal scaling. So for uptime and availability, we actually take atoms, bond them together, and we make what's called molecules. And so that provides that throughput necessary. But again, these are very lightweight, small. They're Java at the core, but again, they're self-contained. So they take the instructions from the cloud, from the platform. An outbound secure tunnel is made. It's not the cloud reaching down to the Atom, and that's one of the ways we ensure security, is that it's not being notified except when it needs to reach out and get that. So you have full control. You also have full control of where the data resides. So many people ask, well, because you have the orchestration layer in the cloud and this runtime, does the data go to the cloud? So no, the data is going to stay or go where you will architect it, in accordance to that. So at the core, it's integration. The data stays resident where it needs to be, and that's how we help preserve your risk profile.
Gotcha. So one question that I had actually is referring to your sandwich metaphor and the data. If someone already has an interface engine they use for HL7 messaging, why do they need a new cloud platform for that?
Okay, yeah. So that's a particular healthcare integration domain, right? So there's a rich cadre of integration technologies that just focus on the point-to-point conversation of usually the electronic medical record and the ancillary system. So as you know, when you go to a hospital, many organizations have chosen expert systems for the different service lines, right? And so the problem arose, it was solved in the late 80s with HL7 EDI, point-to-point, version 2, which there are many versions. So a lot of these back and forth messages, which, you know, could be unidirectional or bidirectional, they create these EDI these text files, right? But that's really just solving a point-in-time issue, a point-to-point problem. The iPaaS solution really takes into account not only integration with the clinical artifacts, so we can integrate with the HL7, but it also takes into account the larger aspects of what's happening across the house. When we think about the personification, when we think about the articulation of a persona-driven architecture, we want to be thinking about, you know, what is it? Who are all the personas in your environment? That have to be taken care of. Well, why spend a lot of money on just one thing that does point to point, you know, in a lollipop diagram, right? It's usually hub and spoke, with just that, when you can not only do that, but then take care of the journey of the patient or the journey of the employee, or take care of the locums or the employer, physician-owned, members of your staff, right? To quickly bring up research collaboratives, to segment data, to quickly bring up connections, you know, and tear them down when the project's, I mean, you want that agility. You want that forethought and insight into budgets. You want to be able to predict within some level of degree of certainty how much unforeseens are going to cost. So then you can put those cushions in, right? Like good project management would. So, you know, Boomi is really all about not just doing one thing, but we also aren't going to blame an author for a book they didn't write. So when people say, I've got HL7, why do I need Boomi? I said, you're right. If HL7 is all you did, maybe that's true. You're just a standalone lab and you just work with one hospital, and that's all it is. But really the case is we're an iPaaS and the interface engines aren't, right? So I don't worry about the interface engines. I worry about people trying to make them do things they weren't supposed to do. And so what happens is that increases technical debt, complexity in the administrative domain for those technical domains, and on and on and on and on. You don't get out of the hole, right? So you're spending less on innovation and new features, and you're not focusing on the bottom line of the business, right? So it's good stuff. You know, we look at it from an agnostic and interoperability perspective, right?
Gotcha. Well, fantastic. I mean, this is, it's been great. We've got a lot more questions here. I don't know if we've got time to get to any, maybe one quick one.
Okay.
Sylvia again has another one that says, do you have a high trust certificate?
Yeah, so the way we look at these industry-driven certification is from a control perspective. So if we look at our data center, auditability, you know, insights and the data we provide to our customers, we check all the controls. So absolutely, we hit all of the items necessary for high trust, just like we abide by the necessary requirements, you know, for being certified in a particular workflow for an FDA workflow or Annex 11. So, you know, we'll work with your security team and help you understand how Boomi provides transparency so that you can, you know, rest assured that your outcomes, either for high trust or some other type of cloud certification, right, is accounted for. But absolutely, Boomi is able to address those certificate needs.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
All right.